You know Baker Mayfield, the walk-on turned #1 pick. His career's been a roller coaster, from savior in Cleveland to being passed around like a Hail Mary with no receiver. Most thought he was done. But now, in Tampa Bay, Baker's proving he's far from finished. Let's break down how he's making it happen. Baker Reagan Mayfield. Yep, that's his full name, and there's a story behind it. His mom picked Baker because she liked it, but his dad insisted on tacking on Reagan as a nod to President Ronald Reagan. It's classic Mayfield, a mix of personality and tradition. He grew up in Austin, Texas, as the younger of two sons. His dad, James, played football at the University of Houston for a few years, so sports were always a big deal in the Mayfield family. But life wasn't always smooth sailing. During Baker's senior year of high school, financial struggles hit hard. The family had to sell their house and move into rentals. A tough break, but it only made Baker tougher. At Lake Travis High School, Baker was pure dynamite. Over 2 seasons, he led the Cavaliers to a 25-2 record and a 2011 4A state championship, throwing over 6,200 yards, 67 touchdowns, and just 8 picks. Those are Madden numbers. But here's the twist. Despite all that, the big schools weren't exactly lining up to sign him. Washington State, Rice, New Mexico, and Florida Atlantic came calling. Not exactly D1 college powerhouses, but Baker's dad gave him a push. You've got bigger dreams than that. So instead of taking an easy scholarship, Baker went the hard route, walked over to Lubbock, and walked on the Red Raiders without a scholarship. Baker Mayfield loved proving people wrong, and that started big time at Texas Tech in 2013. Baker walked onto the team with no scholarship, no promises, and just a shot. By the season opener, he was the starting quarterback. Why? Because he outworked everyone else after an injury sidelined the projected starter. In his first game against SMU, Baker went off. We're talking 413 yards and 4 TDs. He even broke a Texas Tech record for completions in a game with 43, nearly hitting the NCAA record for a freshman. He was named the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week, the first freshman QB to win it since his own coach Cliff Kingsbury back in 1999. Talk about making an entrance. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. A knee injury knocked him out for part of the season. When he got healthy, he found himself in a QB battle with fellow freshman Davis Webb. By the end of the year, Baker had racked up 2,300 yards, 12 TDs, and a Big 12 Freshman of the Year award. Not bad for a walk-on. And then came the drama. Baker announced he was leaving Texas Tech after what he called a miscommunication with the coaching staff. What actually happened? Depends on who you ask. It was clear that Baker wasn't done proving people wrong. Next stop, Oklahoma. When Baker Mayfield showed up at Oklahoma in 2014, he wasn't exactly rolling out the red carpet for himself. No scholarship, no playing time that year, just Baker betting on himself again. He had to sit out the entire season because of Big 12 transfer rules, losing a year of eligibility on top of it. It wasn't fair, but Baker never let stuff like that stop him. By the time 2015 rolled around, it was his show. Baker won the starting QB job in 2015, and he wasted no time showing why. His first big moment? A wild double overtime comeback win against Tennessee, where the Sooners rallied from a 17-point deficit, and it only got better from there. That season, Baker threw for 3,700 yards, 36 touchdowns, and finished 4th in Heisman voting. Oklahoma made it to the college football playoff, but Clemson sent them packing in the Orange Bowl. The 2016 season had its share of fireworks too. Baker threw 7 touchdowns in a shootout win over Texas Tech against none other than Patrick Mahomes. That game was an absolute stat fest, breaking all kinds of records. He finished 3rd in Heisman voting that year and capped the season with an MVP performance in the Sugar Bowl, leading the Sooners to a win over Auburn. And then came 2017, the year of Baker Mayfield. he won the Heisman Trophy, becoming the first walk-on to ever do it after racking up 4,600 passing yards, 43 touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions. He even had some viral moments, like planting Oklahoma's flag at midfield after beating Ohio State in Columbus. Sure, there was the Kansas game drama and the crotch grab incident, classic Baker. But by season's end, he'd led Oklahoma to another Big 12 title and a playoff berth. Oklahoma fell short against Georgia in an epic Rose Bowl game. But by then, Baker's college legacy was set. He walked away as one of the best quarterbacks in Oklahoma history and one of the most entertaining players college football has ever seen. When Baker transferred from Texas Tech to Oklahoma, he thought being a walk-on would make the process simpler. The NCAA and Big 12 said he had to sit out a year and lose a season of eligibility. Even though he wasn't on scholarship, Baker appealed, but it got denied. Here's the twist. In 2016, the Big 12 changed the rules, allowing walk-ons to transfer within the conference without penalty, thanks to Baker's fight. The rule didn't fix his lost year, but it made life easier for future players. They didn't just change the rule, they named it after him. When the Cleveland Browns took Baker Mayfield with the first overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, they were looking for a savior. And for most of Baker's 4 years in Cleveland, he delivered more highs than lows. He came off the bench in Week 3 of his rookie season to lead the Browns to their first win in 19 games, breaking a winless streak that felt like it might never end. By the end of that year, he'd set the NFL rookie record with 27 touchdown passes, and Cleveland finished with a 7-8-1 record, their best since 2007. In 2020, Baker hit his peak. He led the Browns to an 11-5 record, their first playoff appearance since 2002, and a shocking wildcard win over the Steelers, their first playoff victory in 26 years. He finished the season with 30 total touchdowns and just 9 interceptions. And for a moment, Cleveland looked like they might not be the Browns. But then came 2021. In true Cleveland fashion, Baker tore his labrum in Week 2 and played through it, but his performances suffered. The Browns missed the playoffs, and the front office lost faith. Cleveland traded for Deshaun Watson in 2022, but that's a totally different video. And it was clear Baker's time in Cleveland was over. His Browns tenure may have ended badly, but Baker helped pull the franchise out of years of irrelevance. For a while, he was exactly what Cleveland needed. After a messy breakup with Cleveland, Baker found himself in Carolina. In July 2022, the Panthers traded a conditional 5th-round pick for him, a deal that could have turned into a 4th-rounder if Baker had played 70% of the team's offensive snaps. Spoiler, he didn't. Baker competed with Sam Darnold for the starting job, and by Week 1, he was named the starter. The Panthers opened the season against his old team, the Browns, and Baker almost pulled off some poetic revenge. He threw for 235 yards and a touchdown, rallying late before the Panthers fell 26-24. The season went downhill from there. In Week 5, Baker suffered a high ankle sprain, forcing him to miss time. When he returned, he found himself backing up P.J. Walker. Who? By Week 9, Baker came off the bench after a disastrous first half against the Bengals, throwing for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns in garbage time. With a 1-5 record and no clear path forward, Baker requested his release in December 2022. The Panthers granted it, marking the end of a short and rocky stint. Baker wasn't in the unemployment line for long. The Rams called the next day and claimed him off the waiver wire after Matthew Stafford was sidelined by a spinal injury. The Rams were desperate, and Baker had just 2 days to learn the playbook. But that's nothing for our hero. In his first game against the Raiders, Baker started on the bench. But after the first series, Sean McVay threw him into the fire. Down 16-3 in the fourth quarter, the Rams looked cooked. Then Baker did what Baker does, and made magic. With no timeouts and just 1:45 left, he engineered a 98-yard game-winning drive, the longest of his career. It was the kind of moment that makes you wonder if Spielberg wrote it. Baker finished the game with 230 yards, no interceptions, and a lot of people talking. He was even named NFC Offensive Player of the Week for the performance. The magic didn't stop there. In Week 16, he led the Rams to a 51-14 blowout win over the Broncos, throwing for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns while completing 24 of 28 passes. After a tough stint in Carolina, Baker credited his time with the Rams for reigniting his passion for football. It brought the fun back. When I'm having fun, trash talking and enjoying it, that's when I'm at my best, he said. But the time with the Rams was only a temp job. Baker found a new home in Tampa Bay the very next season. Competing for the starting job after Tom Brady's retirement, Baker proved he was up to the challenge. He ended the 2023 season with 28 touchdown passes, 4,044 passing yards, and a 64% completion rate. Not only did he earn his first Pro Bowl selection, he also led the Buccaneers to their 3rd straight NFC South title and a playoff berth. The 2024 season took Baker's career to a whole new level. He threw for 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, and an impressive 106.8 passer rating, all career highs. His Week 17 performance against the Panthers was a career highlight. 359 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a dominant 48-14 victory. That earned him the NFC Offensive Player of the Week honors and solidified his status as Tampa's leader. There were challenges along the way, including injuries to key receivers and some tough losses. But Baker's resilience shone through. He rallied the Bucs to critical wins, including a late-season stretch that kept their playoff hopes alive. With a 3-year contract extension in his back pocket, Mayfield has found his home in Tampa Bay, proving he's thriving in the NFL. Baker Mayfield's career is the ultimate comeback story. From a walk-on quarterback to the #1 NFL draft pick, from the highs of Cleveland to the lows of Carolina and now thriving in Tampa Bay, Baker's journey shows what's possible with relentless drive. He didn't just survive adversity, he came out stronger. Baker Mayfield isn't done yet, and the NFL better stay ready for what's next.